About to record an epic video. Hashtag life is great. Gotta love social media, right? It's just so easy to share and talk about really what sometimes are mundane things in life, but also times to share what's important to you, what you're thinking about, and share your beliefs, your opinions, your insights, things like that. Honestly, like this is just the tip of the iceberg for the internet. And of course, you know that because you're watching this on YouTube. Chances are you do your banking online, you do your shopping online, you hang out with your friends online, you do everything online. Okay, maybe not everything, right? Because there's some things we quite haven't done yet, but are slowly becoming online things. Like, for example, pretty soon here, you're going to be able to buy a house 100% online. And I happen to know that because I'm living in the space and I'm definitely seeing it come to fruition. But there's something that seems like it shouldn't fit online at all, and that is going to church. Well, I just read this book called Online Jesus by Angela Craig, and she starts with that exact same premise. Everything is going online, people are online, therefore, it is inevitable that church goes online. And so instead of waiting for that inevitability to happen, she is on the forefront of making it happen. And this was especially important when everything shut down. All of a sudden, like doing things online was the way to do things. And so she wrote a book trying to help people take church online, and I read it. It's a fairly quick read. It's not even 100 pages, so I read it in a weekend. But part of it was just I devoured it too because it was so good and so practical and applicable. So if you're a church leader or part of a church and you're trying to think like, okay, how do we do this online thing well? It is a book I definitely think you should check out. Now, here's the important part. What she says is that there is a huge difference between streaming your sermon online and building an online community. Streaming content is a one-way conversation. Building community online is a two-way dialogue. It's more than posting videos and sermons on Facebook or your website. That's church TV. Instead, it requires a relationship. Building community online will take time and intention just as it does in person. Now, I should say that kind of hit me close to home because our church posts our videos online. We post it to YouTube and then we embed it in all sorts of places, including Facebook and our website. But what she's talking about is building a community, and it's so interesting the way that she described it. So, like, for example, maybe you post a video, a short one, like no more than 10 minutes. And she even recommends that you do a live video so that people are commenting and interacting. I've listened to some and watched some videos of this, and it's really interesting to watch someone go, hey, yeah, thanks for coming in, everybody. Hey, George, good to see you. You know, your name, 99, awesome to be here. And they'll be doing stuff, and they're leaning in, right? That's part of the engagement piece of it. And then they'll actually get into their content. And then what's so interesting is they'll usually step back or lean in again, and they'll ask a question and actually read comments. It's a great way to get engagement. So this is what Angela Craig recommends. And then here's the magic part. And it blew my mind when I read it because I was like, oh, this is so obvious and such a good idea. Why don't we do this? For whoever comments, send them a direct message. So if you're doing a Facebook Live video and someone comments on your video or interacts with you, follow up with them with a private message on Facebook saying, hey, thanks so much for watching the video. Glad you loved it. I would love to learn more about you. And also, if you have any prayer requests, how can we pray for you? It's just such a perfect way to create a genuine connection with someone, to have a conversation and let it go where it goes, right? There's no real expectation of, hey, I need this person to do this right away, though you definitely do have some asks. And if they are interested, you can then invite them to participate at a deeper level. So this often looks like a couple things. The first one is join a Facebook group. And this is a private group where there's a group of people together. And usually it seems like I'm not 100% sure what the numbers are, but it feels like it's like no more than, say, 50 people. You don't want it to get too overwhelming. I could see where it gets up to 150, and then you're kind of like, okay, we've capped that group. It's time to start a new one. And oftentimes these groups are based on interest. Oh, I'm into technology, or I'm into San Francisco, or I'm into dogs. That's my wife would be part of the Wiener Dog group because she loves it. So this is a group where they regularly read the Bible as a group, reading the same passage. They're talking about it. They're sharing prayer requests. They're sharing about their life, just sharing about what's going on, and creating genuine community. The next thing that they do is they pair people up for one-on-one discipleship. And this is so important because The Bible is, it's an awesome book, but it is a beast thing to read, especially if you're trying to do it on your own. And there's just so much in there to teach us that it's helpful to have someone to guide you through the process. So they set people up one-on-one. And so they meet, and it could be over Zoom, like one-on-one. It could be on Facebook Messenger. It could be over FaceTime, whatever makes sense for the technology that is available to those people. And if they're even local, you can pair them up, and then they can meet in person, which I think is kind of a cool way to take the offline online. No, online, offline. Yeah, there we go. That's the right way to say it. And you begin a discipleship process. Again, that could look like going through the Bible. It could be reading a book together. It could be answering questions. It could be learning about spiritual disciplines and encouraging one another. The goal is to create those connections and help people learn, and ultimately encourage them to share what this church is doing with other people to help grow the church, because that's part of the model. That's what Jesus taught us, to go out, teach people about Christ, share the good news, teach them how to live like him, and then share it with others. And that's the replication that Angela Craig has figured out how to do online. It's a very fascinating idea. The meat of the book has 3 pillars. It's about building community, engaging in discipleship, and then caring for one another. So I already talked a little bit about being in community, where you're joining small groups, you're joining Bible studies. And I talked a little bit about the discipleship piece, and that's where you're doing one-on-one, teaming up with people. The last piece of the book is talking about caring for people, and she has 3 groups. They are emergency groups. These are people who will, in times of emergency, you can reach out to them, and they will help you get whatever you need in the moment. And it may not be them who does it, but they're more of like connectors, facilitators, those kind of people. The second group are counselors. Again, these are people who you can come to, and this is all, we're talking like doing digital posts, like not in person, or maybe talking on the phone, things like that. But these are people, usually they're professional counselors for her church, where you can come to them with marriage questions, job questions, moral questions, just issues you're having, and they can help you work through it. And then the third group, and this is the group that I think most people would fall into, and to me just sounds like a lot of fun, it's the caring group. And these are encouragers. They're people who naturally speak life into others. They celebrate, they pray, they help in non-emergency situations. Man, that just sounds like a ton of fun. People who are like, yeah, you're doing awesome. So it's a way of serving, but doing it in an online capacity. So oftentimes it's not doing physical things like, oh, I'm helping paint the church, or I'm helping to set up for communion. It is more of this, I'm facilitating online interactions, and that's how I'm serving. She does go into the book on how to actually do communion and baptism when everybody is remote. It's pretty fascinating. I definitely recommend that you check it out. Finally, I think it's worth asking, is online church a good thing? And I think the answer is yes, and that's for a couple of reasons. As Angela Craig points out, the early church didn't have the privilege or freedom to gather in buildings. Instead, people came together wherever they could. Today, people are coming together on social media. So, if the church is being where people are, that's a good thing. However, she does point out that church online will never replace in-person community, but it will strengthen the church as we serve, disciple, and care for people online. And that's the important part. She's not trying to say never meet in person, but she's saying this is a great supplement, and you would be surprised at how much of it can be done online, if not all of it, just because of the nature of how things work now. It's kind of a mind blower kind of idea. So that's one of the things that I've been thinking about while reading this book is like, okay, what would a digital online church look like for, say, our church in Corvallis? And I don't know. I'm thinking it through. I'm not even really on a church staff or anything like that. So it's more of a mental exercise of thinking it through. What could that look like? What could I as an individual do to encourage and foster those kind of online interactions? If I do post something like, let's say this video here, and someone makes a comment or someone likes it, maybe the next step I do is reach out to them. And whether or not I'm going to get them plugged into a group doesn't really matter, but to at the very least go, I see you, I'm making a connection, I love that you interacted with this. Do you have anything that I can pray for with you? Do you have anything that's on your mind? Do you, what do you want to share? What do you want to talk about? And just build a relationship with them. And through that, share Christ, share the gospel, and if it makes sense, help them get plugged in whatever way it makes sense for them. So I think that's something that I can do. I think that's something that we can all do. Again, it's a really quick book. I highly recommend it. I'll have a link down in the comments so that you can check it out. There's also a Church Leaders podcast, which is what I originally heard, where she was interviewed. It's about 40 minutes long. I highly recommend checking that out as well. So that's the book. I think it's intriguing. I think it's an interesting notion. I think there's so much more that we can do online. Definitely worth checking out and thinking through, what does 100% digital, church online, online Jesus look like? Thanks, and have a great day.